Hello chess friends, and welcome to Azar's chess channel, and welcome to my series How to Spot Tactics in Chess. So in this series we are recognizing this common position which often lead to tactical possibilities in our own games, and in my last video we did this unnatural king's position. Today we'll do this so-called king in the center position. So the king in the center, when your opponent hasn't castled so far, it often leads to tactical possibilities. You should really recognize your opponent when he stays in the center, and you should recognize maybe in some occasions the possibility to attack your king. So when you realize that your opponent cannot castle anymore in the game, you should follow some rules of the attack. So first of all, you should really open the files and diagonals to the king. So it means when you see your opponent cannot castle, you should really create some pawn breakthroughs just in order to open some files, open some diagonals, just in order to maybe create discovered attacks and really deflect all of the pieces in front of the king just to attack him. So you should also consider when your opponent cannot castle, you should really use all of your pieces in the attack. Sometimes it's not possible, but at least you should really try to use all of your pieces, because in some occasion you maybe sacrifice a piece. You give up a knight for a pawn just in order, as I said, to open some files and diagonals, but that's why you need all of your pieces in the attack. So the third thing is that you should really prevent your opponent from castling. If that happens, if you sacrifice maybe a knight for a pawn, or maybe you give up a rook for 2 pawns and similar ideas, you see, when your opponent secures his king, probably the attack is over and you lose material and you will lose probably the game. While creating this attack, while creating an attack of the king in the center, you should sometimes really create this simple threat idea. You'll see now in these examples that I'll show you, this simple threat is really a nice idea in chess, because you're keeping your opponent occupied, you keep him busy. Always he has to react, he doesn't have any time to castle. So you see. And one of the most important things is, of course, to secure your king first, because you want to have your own security, because in some occasions your opponent could create maybe a counter attack, and when you have your own king in the center, the opponent can do the same thing to you. So let's see now a couple of examples. This I think are really nice games played by this top grandmasters, by the legends in chess. Here is a game. It was played by Gedeon Barca against Mikhail Tal. Here Mikhail Tal with the black pieces, and he finds now very nice tactics in order to prevent his opponent from castling. He plays the move bishop on h3, because if bishop takes on h3, then we have the fork here. Knight takes on f3, and white would lose the queen. So that's why knight takes on d4 was played. Bishop on g2. We have rook on g1. Now e takes d4. Knight takes d4, and now c5. We have knight on b5, and now bishop on f3. You see, Mikhail Tal used these simple threats. He creates this attack with c5 on the knight, and now he really prevents white from castling, because the bishop is now too strong. Of course, white cannot castle, and now he will create this very nice attack, because the king is in the center. And let's see how the legendary Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga, does it. So here g4, and now of course open files, open diagonals, d5 immediately. We want to have this e file open, because if the rook attacks here the king, then it will be really game over for white. So here bishop takes on c5. You see, black doesn't mind here to give up some material. He doesn't care for this pawn. He wants to just open some files. Here rook on c8, again with a simple attack, simple threat. As I said, you have to really attack. You have to keep your opponent occupied. You have to keep him busy. Now the bishop has to react. Here bishop on a3 was played. Now d takes e5, d takes e4 again, just in order to keep some files open. Here d takes e4, and now queen on b6. Of course, with the attack on the knight, again a simple threat. If the bishop takes, would simply take out the knight. Bishop takes on e7, queen takes on b5. Now bishop takes on f8, and you see, because of this endangered king situation, Tal doesn't care for this bishop. Also, he plays first queen takes on b2 with a simple threat here to play rook on c2, because the knight is now really in the way here for the queen, because here the threat would be queen on d8 with a check, and with the support of the bishop it would lead into checkmate. But now you see the bishop on f8 really stands in the way of the queen. Now the black has really formed a really nice attacking formation, and white has to react again. I'm pointing out that in this game Mikhail Tal didn't allow his opponent to castle. The king in the center is really endangered now. Bishop takes on g7, and now king takes on g7, rook on c1 in order to protect this pawn. But now very strong move, rook on d8, deflecting the queen from the defense of the rook. So that's why here queen on e3. But now very nice move again, queen takes on c2. If you take rook takes on c2, then we have rook on d1 checkmate. Here king on f1, but now rook on d1, and it's game over, because if you try something like with the queen, then we can simply take the rook, and here it's again game over. So you see, Tal really opened these files, opened these diagonals for his pieces. He prevented his opponent from castling. He secured his king. He really used all of his pieces in the attack, and he created this very nice simple threats. He kept his opponent busy, he kept him occupied, and that's why he won the game. So you see, he used all of these principles in the king in the center situation, and really nice attack by the magician from Riga. So let's see now another game. It was a game played by Peter Swidler against Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus Carlsen was, well, really crushed here. We have again the king in the center situation. Again here Peter Swidler with white pieces creates this simple threat idea with a simple move, bishop on f4. So you see, again, black has to react, black has to do something, and with the bishop on f4, white finished really his development. He developed all of his pieces, he connected the rooks, he castled, so he finished all of these 3 stages that I explained in my opening principle series. He played really nice developing move, and here queen on a5 played by Carlsen. He wanted to attack the bishop, he wants to do some counterplay, but now we have to really calculate how many moves does black need to castle, because you see, black needs only one black needs only one move in order to castle. So that's why our attack has to be fast. We are not allowing now black from castling. Here rook on e1 was played by Swidler, queen takes on a4, and now rook on e7. Very nice attacking play here by Peter Swidler. King takes on e7. Now the other rook comes in the attack. Rook on e1, king on d8. Now bishop on d6, queen on a5. Now b4. You see, we're using all of our material. We're using pawns, we are using all of our pieces in the attack. Here queen on d6, queen on f4, we have g5. Now of course bishop on e7, king has to go here on e8, and now this very nice discover check. We have bishop on c5, the queen has to come in between, but now queen on d2, and it's basically game over here for Magnus Carlsen. So okay, this game was played in 2006. We know how Carlsen plays now these days, and okay, this was really nice attack by Peter Swidler, and really nice king in the center attack, because we saw he didn't allow Magnus Carlsen here to castle. He used all of his pieces again. He opened some files, he opened some diagonals for his bishops, and he managed to win this very nice game very effectively. So let's see another game. Here it's a game by the legendary Bobby Fischer with the white pieces against Helder Camara. And again, black tried here in this Dragon Sicilian game. He tried here to sort of gain a tempo by just not castling. So you see, because this Dragon Sicilian games, they lead often into this opposite side attacks, and you don't want to lose any tempos. So probably black thought, okay, I'm not gonna castle here, because the common attack by white is this h5 g4 this g4 h5 pawn breakthrough, and then trading off the bishops and try to checkmate on g7. So this is common play in the so-called Yugoslav attack, and here black probably thought, okay, I'm not gonna castle, as I said, and I'll have 1+ tempo. But here you don't do such things against the legendary Bobby, because he'll crush you with the king in the center, and he finds, of course, this very nice move e5. So we have to, as I said, open files, open diagonals. The king stayed in the center too long, and now Bobby Fischer creates this very nice attack. D takes e5, again bishop takes on e5, creating simple threats. The queen has to react. If the queen takes, of course, it's checkmate on d8. We have queen on c8, but now again queen on e2, creating simple threats on the rook on c4. Black has to react. Bishop on d7 was played in order to protect the rook. But now Bobby Fischer finds a very nice move. You can pause the video and try to find your tactics here, because it's really nice, the deflection motif here. And it's of course the move rook on d7, because if you capture with the queen, then you lose the rook. If you capture with your knight, then you lose the bishop. So that's why you're forced to do here, to take the rook with the king. King takes on d7, and now Bobby Fischer really prevented here black from castling. The king will never castle in this game, so that's why knight on b5, as I said, creating all of the pieces in the attack. We have queen on c6, now of course rook on d1, and you see now these pieces are in really nice attacking formation. Here king on e8 was played, but now knight on c7, and it's basically game over, because black took here the knight on c7. We have bishop takes on c7, rook takes on c7, and after queen on b5, it's game over, because if you go with your king on f8, then we have rook on d8, it's a checkmate. And if you try knight on d7, then we have knight on c5, creating this very nice pin, and again it's game over. So very nice attack by Bobby Fischer. You see, again, he used all of his pieces in the attack. He opened the files, he opened the diagonals, he secured his king, which is also an important thing that you have to follow if you're creating this attack of the king in the center. And the legendary Bobby, of course, finds this very nice tactics in the opening. So here is a game also by a legendary player. I found really nice games by the top grandmasters, by the former world champions. Here is a game by Garry Kasparov, here with the white pieces against Valery Salov. And again we have the problem here for black didn't castle. And again we have to be fast now, because black is simply one move from castling. So our attack has to be fast. We have to create the simple threats. We have to keep the opponent occupied. Here e5 immediately. If you take d takes e5, then we have knight on c6, which could lead in these positions in which black will never castle again. And now after c5 we have a very nice activity here on the queen side, that we can in the next move take maybe the pawn on a6, and we'll have this 3-on-1 situation on the queen side, and it will be probably a winning game for Garry Kasparov. So that's why after e5 we have bishop on g2. But now Kasparov leaves the bishop. Here of course he takes first the knight on f6. We have bishop takes on f6, and now knight takes on e6. This is an important move which prevents now black really from castling. F takes e6, queen takes on e6, bishop on e7, and now c5. Really important thing, because if you take here d takes c5, then we can simply take the bishop, and the activity of the queen and the rooks is too much for black to handle here. So that's why black retreated with the bishop. But now rook on e1, again with the simple threat to checkmate. You see now when the king in the center, the position is not so complex, it's not so hard to calculate anymore. We are creating simple threats because we want to keep our opponent busy. Here, queen on c7, now c6. If the queen takes, of course, then we have checkmate, so you have to take with the bishop. Now, of course, using all of the pieces in the attack, rook on c1, here rook on d7 has to be played in order to defend the bishop. Here knight takes on d7, queen takes on d7, and now queen on c4, again a simple threat with an attack on the bishop. So again, black has to react. Bishop on b7, now again very strong move, queen on c7, because if you take, then we capture with the rook, and then in the next move we'll take one of these bishops. So that's why rook on f8 was played, and now queen on b8, we have king on f7, but now again very strong move, rook on c7. In this position black resigned, because if you capture the queen, then again we have this very nice spinning situation. You have to defend here, but we can take another rook, and of course it's a completely winning endgame here for white. You see, many of these top grandmasters, this former world champions, really applied all of these principles of the attack of the king in the center, and you see these games are really attractive because I often play chess, and I always want to secure my king first, because you see you can get really crushed in an early stage of the game, and I'm trying not to allow that to happen. I really want to first secure my king. That's part of the way how I try to play chess. Sometimes it's not possible, sometimes I got crushed also in my chess games, but you see these are top grandmasters here, Garry Kasparov, Mikhail Tal. You see also Peter Swiller crushed Magnus Carlsen because he didn't castle, and you should be really familiar with these types of plays, these types of position, because sometimes you can maybe get a nice win in an early stage of the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. You can watch also my other how to spot the tactics in chess videos from the series, with some other pattern recognitions like lack of defenders, more attackers or defenders, the unnatural king's position, which I did in my previous video. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in a chess game. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.